Well, in our ongoing series, Research in the Cosmos, and exploring the universe and discovering the depth of the human soul and the connection with the psyche and the human evolution in the wheel of reincarnation, we asked one of the men who has discovered himself on the path of rebirth, Chris Winter from Scotland, to come to Sweden.
Thank you.
So we welcome you.
Thank you.
And hope that this will be a challenging interview
Yes.
for all the people that will see this in the future.
Yes.
We're recording this today on the new moon in Leo, and we've had several lectures, and we find it fascinating that you worked with the Mayan skull, the crystal skull, and also having connection to Atlantis. So Chris, do you want to start talking something about the subject of Mexico, the crystal skull, and how you got involved in all this?
Mm-hmm. Well, from a very young age, I've always been interested in Mexico and the Maya. That is the first thing. And throughout my life, I have been drawn to reading Maya culture and the Maya people, all about the Maya people. And then in 1987, I had a dream about a crystal skull. And this was really quite a revelation to me. It was a very lucid dream, and from that into my care came books and information to do with a crystal skull. So all the information was being correlated. Mm-hmm. From that, I had a tape sent to me called a meditation tape into the crystal skulls, and as soon as I saw the opening introduction of the videotape, the crystal skull itself, I was absolutely fascinated. I just had to be with it for some psychic unknown reason, and almost a pull of my soul to make the journey. From there, I went to Canada. I was doing a round the world trip, and I knew that the crystal skull was in Toronto, and it was owned privately by a lady called Anna Mitchell Hedges, who actually found it. And eventually, after much haranguing, the very last minute before I was about to leave the UK, I had a letter from Anna just saying that she could see me. So I had to literally rearrange all my arrangements when I was in Canada so I could be with her. Mm-hmm. And when I got to Canada, after a few days, I made the trip from Toronto out to Kitchener, took a taxi to see her, and she greeted me at the door with the words, "Greetings, and my word, what a lucky boy you are." And I didn't quite know what she meant. She said, "Usually we have people here to see it, but you're all on your own today." So this was my first favor. Well, it wasn't a special favor. I think it was divine providence. I think I needed to be alone with it, and anyway.
Nature arranged.
Absolutely. The cosmos arranged what I needed. I needed to be alone with it. She ushered me into the room and she said, "Well, this is what you have come to see," and there was the crystal skull sitting on the table. And this was my first physical encounter, certainly in this incarnation. And at first there was a look of despondency, followed by a feeling of joy, a feeling of, I really want to be in the room alone with it. I need to be alone with myself. She told me more about the skull and about herself. She then asked me if I'd like a cup of tea, and I said yes. She went into the kitchen, and before she went, she picked up the skull and put it in my lap. And and there I was with a human crystal skull in my lap. I really felt very strange with it because the jaw was still left on the table. And I felt the jaw should have been with the skull at this point. But a lot of things followed from then, and to cut a very long story short, I had a tape by Rick Thurston and a book. And as I was traveling across Canada, for 3 days, I had time to reflect on my encounter with this artifact. And I was in tears and in joy and tears and joy for 3 days. Something had broken into me to tell me a lot more about myself than I could possibly imagine, and yet I didn't know what it was. Years later, in 1991, I beg your pardon, in the later part of 1990, Anna came to England. And it wasn't till the spring of 91, after she had got herself settled in and into her home, that I made contact with her again. And it was at that time that I went down to see her, It was the Buddha moon, full moon, the Buddha